This video will present an overview of introduction paragraphs for an academic essay. In an academic essay, an effective introduction typically includes a hook that draws the reader into the subject, background information about the subjects, and a strong thesis statement. First, we'll talk about Part 1, a hook or attention grabber. What is a hook? A hook is an opening sentence or two that grabs the reader's interest and introduces the general subject of the essay. We want to use a hook to grab the reader's attention because this will encourage the reader to keep reading. If the introduction is boring or confusing, the reader might stop reading. You'll find that it's important to use an attention grabber as a college writer. Many instructors expect essays to include some kind of hook or attention grabber to interest the reader. We'll go over some example hooks. The first option is to create a quote. A writer uses the words of another to help illustrate a point. Your quote should be unusual, funny, or interesting. It's important not to choose a long quote. It could be maybe a sentence or two. Your quote should connect to the subject of your essay, so it needs to relate to what you're writing about. If it doesn't connect to your subject, it might confuse the reader. Remember to put opening and closing quotation marks around your quote. Include who said or wrote your quote as well. Here's an example hook for an informative essay about work in America. Your essay might begin with a quote like this. Thomas Jefferson once said, "I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it." As one of the founding fathers of this nation, Jefferson symbolizes how America was built on the backbone of a solid work ethic. This would just be the hook, or the beginning two sentences of your essay. You would go on to add background information and a thesis statement that relates to this hook. We will look at some examples of that shortly. But first, let's look at option 2, a question. If you ask your readers a thought-provoking question, they are bound to look for an answer and will read your essay. The key is to ask an interesting question or a related group of questions that connects to the main idea and sparks the reader's curiosity. It is usually best to avoid questions with yes or no answers. If you ask a question with a yes or no answer, it might not be as thought-provoking as one that has an open-ended answer. Here's an example of a hook for an informative essay on how to survive in the wilderness. Have you ever wondered how you would survive if you found yourself alone in the wilderness? How would you defend yourself against predators? What would you eat? Where would you find water? How would you find shelter? These are some of the difficulties that a person must face when surviving in the wilderness. You can see how the first sentence here is a yes or no question. Have you ever wondered how you would survive if you found yourself alone in the wilderness? It might be better to create a question that provides a more thought-provoking answer. Maybe something along the lines of, what would you do if you found yourself alone in the wilderness? That way it's not a yes or no question. Option 3 for a hook is to use historical information. Some topics are better understood if a brief historical review of the topic is presented. Make sure the statement is factual. Use quotes unless the information is common knowledge. Keep it brief. Here's an example for an informative essay on skateboarding. In the spring of 1975, skateboarding took an evolutionary boost toward the sport that we see today. In Del Mar, California, a freestyle contest was held at the Ocean Festival. That day, the Zypher team showed the world what skateboarding could be. They rode their boards like no one had in the public eye, low and smooth. And skateboarding was taken from being a hobby to a serious, exciting sport. So you can see here that this is historical information. We have the topic and its background. You might notice that there are some dates, often with historical facts. And this can be an interesting way to draw your reader into your topic. Option 4 is an anecdote or a short story. The writer includes an interesting short story in a creative way to interest the reader. Include sights, sounds, scents, and other sensory images. Keep it brief, 2 paragraphs or less. Here's an example of an anecdote or a story for a persuasive essay about problems with society. On a cold Wednesday morning at 3 a.m., a man who experienced road rage shot a bicyclist. The wounded cyclist cried for help. No one answered. Then he slowly made his way to the nearest door he could find and knocked, begging for help. Still, no one answered. Before he died, he had knocked on 5 doors, pleaded with the residents to hear his cries, but no one answered. You can see how this is a short story that interests the reader, and you would go on to connect your topic to this story. Option 5 is a surprising statement. Sometimes it includes statistics or facts. An opening statement may be surprising because it is upsetting or shocking. Sometimes it is surprising because of who said it. Take care to explain how the statement relates to your topic. Make sure that the statement is relevant, not just shocking. It should connect to your subject. Here's an example for a persuasive essay about protecting children. Do you have a minute? That may be all it takes to save the life of a child, your child. According to Jason Mount, accidents kill nearly 8,000 children under age 15 each year. And for every fatality, 42 more children are admitted to hospitals for treatment. Yet, such deaths and injuries can be avoided through these easy steps parents can take right now. You don't have a minute to lose. Notice how there are statistics here. We have a reference according to Jason Mount, so this is where the data comes from. We also begin with a question. Do you have a minute? So this incorporates 2 different types of hooks, a question and some statistics that are shocking. Option 6 is a claim or a declarative statement. In this pattern, the writer simply states the argument of the paper, often the thesis statement. Don't give too much information, so if you choose this, you don't want to start jumping into your examples and details that you'll want to later save for your body paragraphs. You also don't want to write, in this essay, or I'm going to tell you about. Those phrases are kind of expected, so it's best to avoid them. Here's an example for a persuasive essay about a free concert in public parks. If you attend a concert in a city park, chances are you're less interested in the performance than the whole package, in which the music, the weather, the general atmosphere, and the spirit of the moment become inseparable. You can see how this includes the thesis statement right away, where the essay will probably describe the whole package with the music, the weather, the general atmosphere, and the spirit of the moment. So you can jump right into your thesis statement if that's an option you'd like to try. After we create a hook, we want to include background information about the subject or subjects of the essay. Background information helps the reader understand the subjects and the purpose of the essay. Writers use background information to explain anything the reader may not understand or to provide definitions of complex subjects or unfamiliar words. This serves as a bridge between your hook, or the engaging first sentences, and your thesis. We'll look at an example here that incorporates a hook, as well as background information and a thesis statement. So imagine that the text that is in black here, this includes the hook and the background information and the thesis that would all be put together in your first introduction paragraph. So for instance, you might begin with an informative essay about money with a famous Beatles quotation. Many people can relate to the Beatles song, "Money Can't Buy Me Love." See how that's a hook that includes a statement and also a quotation, and that might draw in your reader's interest. The reader might want to know, well, yes, I've heard "money can't buy me love" before. How is this going to connect to your essay? Background information helps connect this quote to your main idea. Whether this is true or not, people often wonder what will make them happy. Some people lead simple lives surrounded by simple pleasures and family and friends. and others may always be on the lookout for the next fancy gadget that promises to make their lives easier and more enjoyable. Then we would move into the thesis statement. While some people may constantly be reaching for the next best thing or the next luxury money can buy, in reality, money has little to no impact on healthy relationships, personal happiness, and feelings of success. You can see how this essay will describe healthy relationships, personal happiness, and feelings of success. That's the thesis statement, describing how money does not impact those things. And the writer uses this quote at the beginning, "Money can't buy me love," because it relates to the essay's idea overall. This is just one example. If you'd like more help with them, a good way to work on this is to pick out hooks and just try some out. Try some out on your own. So to review our ideas that we talked about last week with thesis statements, the thesis statement is the final piece of an effective introduction. A thesis is a 1 to 2 sentence statement that explains your main idea. This helps the reader determine the purpose of your essay. Remember, the thesis should be specific, assertive, and organized. You might want to review our previous thesis statement assignment for more information. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or need more examples or some help with your essay, please feel free to email me. You can email me at pharrington@cnm.edu. Thank you.